Hey, what's going on, folks? Sean here, blackhealthhq.com. Today, I want to share some research with you on why, for type 2 diabetics, right, actually taking insulin medication comes with complications, okay, including heart attack. And so, I really want to jump into this data with you. And so, what I'm doing, I'll show you my computer screen, all right. This is an article, letter to a 35 to 58-year-old black diabetic. All right, I've been wrote it on May 15th. Okay, and there is one piece that I want to focus on today, and that's item number 6. Okay, underneath, insulin medication is actually hurting us. Okay, diabetics injected with insulin are 3 times more likely to die from heart attack than those that take an oral medication, according to a 2011 study from the Current Molecular Pharmacology. Okay, so this is the one. This is the one. Now, maybe that's common sense to you, but it was not common sense to the diabetics I know. All right, I think most folks think that as long as they're on the medication, they're good. So what happens when we click on Current Molecular Pharmacology? Okay, we click on it. Of course, we get taken over to the actual abstract, right? The abstract of the study is just a summary of the study. Excess exposure to insulin is the primary cause of insulin resistance and its associated atherosclerosis, right? So basically, that title is saying that when you get too much insulin, your body begins to you become dependent on external insulin, and you end up having you end up with a greater ability to clog your own arteries. Essentially, I mean, you end up, atherosclerosis is just clogged arteries. That's another way for it, another name for it. And so so that's bad news bears. And so you can see if excess exposure to insulin causes clogged arteries, then it's not a stretch to think about how it can cause heart attack, right? I do want to just go ahead and point you over to this little piece right here. Let me see if I can. Okay, you got to buy this article, right? $63 plus tax. I want to zoom in on that right quick. Now, why should you have to, let me see if I can get you back. Why should you have to pay for an article that was probably funded by public dollars, right? You have to pay $63 in order to get this information, in order to get this study. And then even once you buy the study, of course, you have to have the requisite education to understand exactly the terms and the format and see if the study makes sense to you, right? That's ridiculous. It's just one of my little pet peeves with the academy in general, and the way that scholarship is done in the age of the internet. This all of this information should be free. So my way around that, my little workaround, is that I come right over here. I work and study at the University of Texas, and so here's a study right here. Okay, I'm going to click on this thing, clickety click, and I come over to the actual full study right here. All right, we can get the PDF, but the HTML is fine. And so there is something I want to actually show you. There's a highlighted part here. I've already taken the liberty of sort of figuring this out. So this whole study, let me just tell you real quick. This whole study was they took some mice and they started injecting them with insulin. And what they found is that the mice started accumulating fat. Right? They started getting fatter, but not just fatter like in the stomach areas and on the thighs, right? But there was something called ectopic fat, all right, or ectopic fat, however you want to say it. But and ectopic fat is just fat that accumulates like in the liver, in the muscles. Fat that doesn't it accumulates in abnormal places on the body. Okay, and so let me just show you what these results are. These results indicate that the increased basal insulin signaling causes insulin resistance and hyperinsulinemia through the promotion of ectopic fat accumulation and oxidative stress, while working hard to maintain normal blood glucose levels. These results help explain why a majority of subjects with insulin resistance, hyperinsulinemia, can maintain their blood glucose at normal or nearly normal levels without ever developing overt diabetes. Okay, then I'm going to scroll down just a little. All right. In summary, let me go ahead and highlight this for you. In summary, our recent observations strongly support the notion that insulin may be the primary, necessary player that converts the positive energy imbalance into insulin resistance and associated diseases. Thus, blockade of excess exposure to insulin, go ahead and read that last part. The blockade of excess exposure to insulin may be a viable approach to prevent and or reverse insulin resistance and its numerous associated diseases. Okay, so all that is just to say that this study has found that mice and likely mammals in particular who are injected with extra insulin, they run into some problems, right? Even if the fat is not sort of normal fat deposits on the body, it's not in the thighs, it's not on the gut, it's not right all the places that we would associate fat going with so-called fat people. Even still, fat is accumulating in the body. We have to remember that insulin does two things. Of course, it pushes sugar right from the blood into our body cells, but also it promotes something called lipogenesis, okay, which means that it's triggering the body to start storing energy, storing fat. Anything that cannot fit into those cells needs to get stored, right? Any energy, excess energy, the excess glucose that cannot be pushed into the cells for immediate energy, right, for immediate use, has to be stored somewhere for future use. That's all fat is. It's just stored energy, right? And so this study is basically saying that excess exposure to insulin, right, via insulin medications, right, these are causing abnormal fat deposits in the body. Abnormal fat deposits in the body lead to phenomenon like atherosclerosis. Atherosclerosis, right, you can imagine what happens if it's atherosclerosis is just clogged arteries, what happens when your arteries get clogged and blood can no longer flow in and from the heart, right, the heart starts to stall out on you. So that's where you get heart attacks, right? The heart is starving for oxygen and eventually it suffocates. Okay, so really, please, staying on the insulin medication for type 2 diabetics. Type 1 it may be necessary, but for type 2, I would encourage folks to find some alternative pathways so that they don't have to be dependent on the insulin medication. I would encourage folks to start thinking a little bit more about what options are available for becoming insulin independent, right? For having your own body just create the insulin. That's the real difference between type 1 and type 2. Type 1, beta cells in the pancreas are destroyed, so their bodies can't produce insulin. And type 2, really, it's something different. It really has more to do with their bodies are producing a normal level of insulin. The problem is that their bodies are also insulin resistant at a higher than normal level, which means that they have either too much fat blocking or the pancreas is sort of pooped out. Either way, the normal level of insulin in their bodies, in a type 2 diabetic's body, is not enough anymore because there's either too much fat on the body or they are eating so much or eating at the wrong times or too frequently, too much of the wrong foods at the wrong time of the day, and their pancreas is burned out from having to produce so much insulin throughout the day, right? So those are the sort of two ways that a person can become a type 2 diabetic, right? Either they have too much fat that's blocking the insulin from doing its job, or that pancreas, its efficiency is compromised in some way because of the food that they're eating. They're both tied to food and diet. Genetics are going to play a role, but they're not the role. And so I would encourage you to find a way to get up off of this insulin medication. It's causing some issues and some challenges. So that's all I have for you today. I'm Sean Smith, BlackHealthHQ.com. Peace.